Hi guys. A couple of months ago, I started to see these videos about quantum ethics, and I was wondering what in earth is quantum ethics. So I recently found this particular video, which we are going to do a kind of reaction video to, that explains it finally quite well. So let's have a look at it and see what we find out.
I think there's a clear and present danger, and it's staring us right in the face.
I wanted to build a business, I always have, but I had this hunger for something that was going to be more than that, something that was lasting, and something where you could look back and say, wow, we did something that really had an actual impact. That same realization is what got me interested in the ethics of it. Because while I was talking to our co-founder Dave and some other folks, we were realizing that it was worth financially backing this because the end potential is so big. But as someone who thinks about ethics and morality, I was like, well, the corollary to that is you could have a really significant negative impact.
So with great power comes
the powers of technology really caught, I think, is in a moment for us to pause and cause us to take a step back to say, wait a minute, if we can do in a few minutes what it would take 10,000 years to do with our current technology, well, that really requires some careful consideration what that kind of power can mean.
Right, so they're talking about the quantum supremacy experiment.
Was asleep
the
at
10,000 years this is exactly what the Google paper claimed, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
The pursuit of various different returns overcame our sensibility. If you think 100 years ago, 150 years ago, when mass media first made its appearance in the form of newspapers that millions of people would read, we put controls in place. When railways started to emerge, we put controls in place. In the mid-90s, and really the combination of the internet revolution and what's happened with mobile telephony, we gave up. There were no controls.
He doesn't like it. He wants to put control in place. So they're going to be like quantum license. Only if you have it, you can program quantum computer.
Yeah, so, the internet is designed to be sort of free, and that's sort of the ethos of the internet, right? So
you speak like someone who's using illegal Hamiltonians.
Yeah, I don't really see why, we do need those controls. In fact, why the internet flourished so much is because actually the lack of control, and everybody could do whatever they want.
But it was done to the railway, so it should also be done to...
Also, there almost certainly weren't controls in place during the Industrial Revolution. That's why we have the current labor laws that we have today.
Yeah. Thank goodness the trains had controls. They'd be everywhere, the whole city would be full of trains.
Yeah. You can't go to work because there's a train on the way.
So if we think about what it can do for good, of course, each of those industries, pharma, molecular simulation, creating new materials, that's wonderful. But of course, it could also be used to create new materials for purposes that aren't so wonderful. We start to see and understand why governments, for example, are interested from even a material science perspective. And of course, the infamous one is, of course, Shor's algorithm and the understanding that quantum computing could one day likely break encryption. And ultimately, all technologies have things that they can be used for good and things that they can be used for bad. What we have to understand as a community and address now is it worth the risk? Just because we can do something doesn't mean we should.
So like when classical computers were created, we broke the Enigma cipher, right? And nobody said that we shouldn't really create computers because it would break cryptography. The response was cryptography getting much stronger. That's the natural sense of development, and it should be the same. It shouldn't be like, okay, so let's create quantum license, and those who have it, because we put controls in place, they will break the ciphers, and those who don't have the license, they will not break the ciphers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then the materials, the thing that she's talking about there is about quantum simulation, right? And so this is one of the great prospects that people think quantum computers will be useful for. But kind of find it hard to imagine any materials that, shouldn't really have ever been invented at all. Probably the only exception might possibly be things like nuclear bombs, but I think even then it's quite debatable of whether that should be something that, just should never have been invented, or, you should never have even researched it. Of course, you wouldn't have nuclear energy.
Yeah, and she said just because we can do something doesn't necessarily mean we should. But she makes it sound like, oh yeah, we can just make quantum computing tomorrow. Yeah, but we just don't know if we should.
Right. Also, this isn't Jurassic Park. You definitely should. Make quantum computers.
But she makes it sound like it's so easy and we can just do it. But we can't.
Right.
There are thousands of people every day thinking how to make reliable quantum computers, and they don't know.
You have a number of lessons that have been taught us, or hopefully have been presented for us, in artificial intelligence and the invasion of privacy laws, which are now significantly.
As always. So how quantum computer could invade our privacy if we have, because we do have quantum safe symmetric ciphers, like advanced encryption standard, which you can totally encrypt your entire privacy, and never, no matter how powerful quantum computers someone might have in the future, will never be able to break it, because AES is quantum safe and it cannot be used for that purpose. So this is just scaring people without any reason.
So could they just be, used in sort of every circumstance? There's no particular cases where it's all better to use RSA or anything like that?
They have sort of different use cases, because RSA is asymmetric encryption. So key that is used to decrypt something is not necessarily the same as the one which is used for encrypting something. So it has a different use case. The one I'm talking about is literally for privacy protection, so that you can encrypt your own private data, and you have only one key. And finding this key based on the data is impossible, because data looks like just random stuff, and there's no known algorithm that would find the key to this data, quantum or not. There's no way to do it.
Causing restrictions in Europe with respect to the management of personal information and personal data. Face recognition issues, for instance, are in this country a matter of significant controversy and importance, because of the implications of inequity and discrimination against people with differing facial characteristics. The whole area of medical science and who owns the knowledge that is discovered by the quantum technology, how will it be applied?
Who owns the knowledge that is discovered without the quantum technology? How does quantum change this problem at all?
Yeah, it really feels like this video had like a list of keywords to check off to make people concerned about future technologies.
I agree.
Racism, inequity. Now all of them are tied to the things that you can do with a quantum computer.
I do think that we should think backwards a little bit in terms of not only what can make the most money, which is fine, but what can make the most impact.
What happens when we have machines that are capable of understanding nuance, humor, emotion? I think that a quantum computer at some point, because of the degrees of freedom that it allows in the way that we cope with information, because Obviously, language is all
like
about
Skynet.
information. What you're doing.
I don't know. This is just so nuance and human emotion. I mean, where is this coming from? I really don't know where this is coming from. Yeah.
Maybe, maybe we should consider the possibility, because it's an ethics debate, that quantum computers could become self-aware and they should have rights and be
That's where the ethics comes in.
They haven't mentioned that even once until now.
Yeah.
So
okay. I can see where they're pandering to. It's all the people that think that the brain is explained by like something quantum in it. The quantum brain people. I'm like, oh my god. Yeah.
And what whoever's listening is doing at the moment is processing information. When that happens, it raises some interesting questions.
Processing this information.
If we look back in history, this is something which has happened countless times with all these different kind of technological revolutions or really transformative technology. And if we don't address that and recognize it now, then we see people who created nuclear warheads, of course, having complete mental breakdowns for a reason, because we're not necessarily thinking about those full ethical challenges from the beginning. We know that the genie is going to be unlocked, with the amount of venture.
That's like hype building. We don't know if the genie will be unlocked. There might never be any reliable, scalable quantum computer ever. There is such possibility.
Don't say it.
And maybe all the funding money will be wasted.
Oh.
There is such possibility.
No, you cannot say these things, Maro.
She's so sure. She says, we are sure the genie will be unlocked. No, we are not sure. There is a possibility it will never be unlocked.
Yeah.
There is a chance for that, and that's why it's science. It's risky. We don't know if it will work or not. It's unknown. It's not like building a Lego castle, like just following the instruction. No, we don't know how to do it, and maybe we will never know. There is such possibility.
Where we're at on the technology pipeline, it's not a question of is quantum computing going to happen? It's a question of when.
So it sounds like
we're
it's
just
like invitation to fund something. But in such case, because like she already stated, it's only a matter when, it's just a matter of talent and funding. Okay, then maybe they shouldn't be offending rich people for the whole video first in the first place.
First of all, there is a knowledge hurdle in the sense that quantum mechanics is kind of strange. And it takes, some time to understand it. Now, this is the way classical computing was in the 50s or 60s. This is what PhDs did, right? And then nowadays, my kids in high school or junior high were learning how to program, at a pretty sophisticated level because things were able to be abstracted well enough. And I think that will happen with quantum computing. But what I think is kind of interesting is now with the internet and the like, people can kind of learn this on their own.
That was a pretty rational take.
Yeah, I know. So everything John Martinez says actually makes sense.
It's not so much that these concepts are difficult to understand. It's just that you don't interact with them on a daily basis. So there has to be a way to teach them in an interactive way that really captures the imagination of the person who's working with it.
Well, I understand what he's saying, teaching students, people going and interacting with the quantum computer itself. But in terms of the ethics, I don't really see how it falls into place.
The other way, they are promoting it, saying, okay, this thing could be used for, this, that, and that, It's so powerful that, people will be start to,
that might just be it,
Yeah. Because I think the bad side they mentioned. For now, it doesn't exist at all.
Yeah.
So when they are promoting this, then people with a huge amount of money, and he was thinking, okay, we don't want the extra rich people, to use this only for this and that. We want to use for them, and and the rich people heard that, and okay, this can be used for this and that. Okay, maybe we should fund it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Just a guess.
It's so dangerous. It's like, wow, we want to be involved.
Yeah, for people, it's always attraction. Reverse psychology.
It's a really wide, diverse net to start to help, make quantum computing look like the world does, which is rich and diverse, and is not just, a bunch of white folks in Silicon Valley.
I don't know. Yeah, it's just don't get this argument of why we are criticizing these rich white folk in Silicon Valley, right? What has inequality really got to do with this quantum ethics?
Nothing.
Like, I'm just trying to twist my mind into understanding even the argument. Like,
well,
yeah.
What argument? There was no argument for the whole video.
Well,
I don't know,
yeah.
but if we look at even the quantum itself, the quantum mechanics we are dealing with, it also have inequalities. I mean, by this, I mean, if you do the probabilistic calculation of anything, you will always get that this one is 0.5, this one is 0.2, 0.1. You have different probabilities. There is already inequality there, right? So the one that has high chance of occurring will always happen. The ones that have least chance of occurring may never happen at all. That's inequality for you.
Yeah, and one of the and actually one of the eigenstates is there will be never any quantum computing at all, and it has a non-zero amplitude.
Yeah, exactly. So
is that because you're working on the Majorana quantum computer?
Yeah, but I do it for fun.
Oh, yeah.
Globally, we do need to be having the conversations. We need to be having the conversations with academia, with governments, with startups, with industries, with different sectors. With ethics, it's all about discussions and having discussions early.
Actually, yeah, it's all about having discussions. But I think this quantum computing ethics, if I really understand it very well, if there is anything at all, the ethics guiding the already existing computing should also be able to guide the quantum computing.
Yeah.
Because I don't see any other thing than the quantum computing replacing computing itself.
Yeah. And I think the best way, to really, if there exists something like quantum ethics, the best way to do it is just to go on developing the quantum computer until one day that is accessible to everybody, like maybe internet, like right now. Like classical computing, like now, it's the best thing that they can. Not like that. Okay, maybe you should not do it. Not this kind of concept. Instead, we should just do it and just keep going, and until one day it's acceptable to everyone. Maybe that's the best way.
It's more like a ethics for like general groundbreaking new technologies, rather than like ethics for just quantum computing.
Yeah, it's more general.
Yeah, it should be more talking in like more general context.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not against like thinking ahead, right? Because of course, you do need to think ahead in certain types of things, but is it really warranted that there's going to be this huge threat that's emerging? Like, that just feels a little bit overblown to me, basically.
Yeah, and some problems like solving inequalities that already exist in our world. I don't think quantum computing can just magically, redistribute wealth between the rich and the poor.
Yeah,
I don't think it can do that. And nature has its own way of doing things. There are some places on this planet that are very rich. You go to the rainforest, they are very rich in vegetations and things like that. You go to the desert, they are very arid. You don't see anything in that place. Nature has its own way. Even in our own nature, it's there. So I don't think you can use quantum computing to solve these kind of problems. Take an example again, for advanced countries. Students in advanced countries can access quantum computing right now, while students from poor countries are only seeing classical computer right now. So how then do they access the quantum computing? So that imbalance is already there. And even the democratization is also there, because the democratization tells me I can buy this or I cannot buy this, right? It's not a question of, okay, we are doing democracy, everybody should have it. No.
Yeah, and
You're
also,
such a capitalist.
also I don't really think it's our job or their job to discuss the possible dangers, like if we should do it or not. We just find a way to make it happen, and we don't care if it's okay or not. Just do it because it's cool.
Well, and I'm equally saying that even if we do it, and even if it happens, well, it's just going to just replace what is existing. It's not going to really.
Not even that, because you cannot really do everything that classical computer does on a quantum computer, so it cannot replace it. It can be an addition to it, but you won't be reading your PDFs on quantum computer. It doesn't make any sense at all. Classical computers will always be there.
Of a quantum computing society. Shouldn't we today be anticipating those issues as opposed to being asleep at the wheel again?
Sleep at the wheel.
Again, I don't know
Sleep at the wheel.
What issues are we really
I don't know. Yeah.
What issues?
Yeah.
And even the 2008 problem, how could have quantum computing prevented that? Is it not just human greed that drove us to 2008? I think he's talking about financial meltdown, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So is it not human greed? How has that what has it got to do with quantum computing?
Well, nothing to do with quantum computing. Yeah. But maybe it's like an analogy, right? So you have something that went out of control, and
so
perhaps you could say that was an out of control situation.
Oh, okay.
But I don't know. I don't know what is going to go out of control with quantum computing at this point.
Well, I advocate the attitude that you should do quantum because it's awesome and not because you can do something with it.
Well, it's awesome because, you can potentially do many things, right?
Yes. But not everything.
But
that's
not everything.
That's
yes.
overhyping.
Mm.
There are some
Absolutely,
really nice things you can do which we could not do. We couldn't do without quantum computers, but that's it.
So basically, everything has its own limitations.
Yeah.
I think even quantum computing will also have its limitations.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then maybe we start. We are talking of this because this is second quantum revolution, right? So maybe there could be a third quantum revolution whereby.
You said it first. Coin and patent. Copyright. Yeah. Dowling has the second, and you've got the third. Yeah.
Those people, if they ever watch our response, they will be so triggered.
It feels like some of them know what they were getting into when they heard.
Then I hope you enjoyed the video, and see you next time.
Looking
Bye.
forward for the comments.
Bye.